Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this Mr. Pandaria raiding guide, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at the heroic mode version of the Twin Consorts in the Throne of Thunder raid. Now in order to complete this fight you're going to want to bring 2 tanks, 2 to 3 healers, again depending on how strong your healers are. I would definitely recommend 3 if this is your first time killing it, and then the remaining a mixture of both melee and ranged DPS. Now thankfully there are quite a few changes in this fight which does justify it to be a decent heroic fight. It's fairly enjoyable. I think we spent, what was it, 4 hours worth of wiping on it before we actually got a kill, so yeah. It's one that you can do fairly early on because it's not too hard, but you might need to spend a little bit of time on it and preparation for it in order to actually get the kill. So because this fight also can be split down into, I guess, 4 phases, but we'll look at the first 3 because you don't need to look at the 4th one really. I'm going to split the guide down into the first phase, second phase and third phase, and then we'll just explain the abilities and how to actually counteract them in order to kill the boss, get yourself some nice epics and a shiny achievement. Now in the first phase you will still be fighting Lulin to start off with, and Swen, as you know, in the normal mode will also be jumping in and out in order to aid her during this fight. You should bear in mind for the entire encounter that, as it is heroic mode, the majority of abilities will be dealing a lot more damage than they were on the normal mode version of this fight. Now in phase 1, Swen will still have her 2 abilities that she will pop in and out and do, and this is the Light of Day ability where she will randomly jump on a target and strike them with a light beam, dealing a moderate amount of damage, and also the Channeled Tears of the Sun ability, and I emphasize the channeled word because you'll need to remember that for later on. So now if we just move away from Swen for a minute and take a look at Lulin, she's got the same abilities as in the normal mode as well, the Moon Lotus, the Cosmic Barrage and the Beast of Nightmares. However, she has gained a new ability called Lurkers in the Night, and we'll talk about that in a moment. First of all, I just want to mention the Beast of Nightmares, and in the normal mode version of the fight you probably got your tanks to tank swap on the boss when a beast actually spawned on a player. Instead on heroic mode what we do is just get the tank to continue tanking the boss and just kill off the beast instead of the boss, and then just swap back onto the boss when the beast is dead. It may require some healers to actually sacrifice themselves and get a few stacks of the Dot ability that gets placed, the Corrupted Healing ability, but it shouldn't be too bad to heal, especially if your tank has decent self-healing abilities. Again, as per usual, don't stand in the clouds that the Moon Lotus creates, and make sure you're spread out at all times during this phase for the barrage. So the Lurkers in the Night are little mobs that will spawn around the outside of the room, and unfortunately you can't attack them, and these will deal a small amount of shadow damage to random players within the raid. And I say a small amount, but over time it will gradually increase because more and more Lurkers will spawn. And the only way for you to actually attack these Lurkers is for Swen to be moved near them while she is channeling her Tears of the Sun ability, and this will reveal them, allowing them to be attacked and killed. Now, this is what we have 2 tanks for ideally, mostly because you need them in the second phase as well and in the third phase. But in the first phase you're going to want your second tank to be on Swen at all times, and you can get aggro on Swen by, you know, general taunting abilities, Death Grip and that kind of stuff. And what you need to do is you need to make sure your tank's looking around the room and seeing where the most Lurkers are currently. And then when Swen is channeling Tears of the Sun, you'll want your tank to move with Swen, because she can move while channeling it, thankfully, to where the Lurkers are and reveal as many as possible. And then you need your tank to pick up the Lurkers in the night, and then the raid to just kill them off as fast as possible. It does sound fairly simple to do, but it might take a little bit of practice in order for you to get down on the actual strategy of revealing them and figuring out which corner of the room or which area of the room is the best to take Swen to. But that's pretty much all you need to worry about in the first phase, is the damage that will be building up from the Lurkers in the night. Now, as per the normal mode, when you enter phase 2 you will be fighting Swen, and Lulin will be popping in and out of the fight in order to, you know, be quote-unquote helpful. She is actually quite helpful in the heroic mode actually, it's really useful. So just to jog memories, Lulin will of course be casting the Ice Comet, which has a little kind of shadow behind it. And that's a vital piece of information there. I need you to remember that for approximately 2 minutes, or the rest of this guide, or for the entire fight. So remember, Lulin, Ice Comet, Icy Shadows are beneficial when used correctly. Wise words. So Swen will still be using her same 4 abilities from the normal mode. She'll be doing the Fan of Flames, the Flames of Passion, the Blazing Radiance, and the Light of Day. Now, you should also make sure that you are aware that the Light of Day will instantly kill any Ice Comets it does go near, and you don't want to be wasting the Ice Comets because it's going to help you take a lot of reduced damage. Now in this phase, Swen actually gains a new ability, and this is where the Ice Comets come into use, which I'll speak about in a moment. Her new ability goes by the name of Nuclear Inferno, and what she will do is channel the Inferno, so it's a channeled ability, and it will inflict every raid member with a moderate amount of fire damage every second. Now, while she is channeling this effect, she will pretty much become fully immune. Her ranged and spell deflection is increased by 100%, and her dodge chance is also increased by 100% as well, so you can't really do much damage, you've just got to hide from the Inferno. This is where the Ice Comets actually come in useful, because what you want to do is, if you stand in the shadowy part of the Ice Comet, the Icy Shadows bit, you will take a hell of a lot less damage. I think it's like 60% reduced damage from any fire-based abilities. However, you need to make sure that there's actually going to be a comet alive and that you've not used it in order to reduce the amount of Blazing Radiance stacks that the boss actually has. So when the comets first spawn, you'll want to use the first one in order to reduce the stacks of Blazing Radiance on the boss. Then use the second comet for the Nuclear Inferno, because the timers should line up to be about right for that. And then the third comet will spawn, you use that for Blazing Radiance debuffs. And then when the fourth comet spawns, Nuclear Inferno should be just about to be cast as well. So you need to make sure you're in the right place at the right time in order to hide. You may want to consider using powerful healing cooldowns during this phase, even though the damage is significantly reduced. It just helps because some people might not make it in time. Use cooldowns on them if need be. The general idea is that you want to be using the Ice Comets in a kind of rinse and repeat way. So the first one would be dropped stacks, second one Inferno, third one drop stacks, fourth one Inferno, and then just rinse and repeat that, and you should be able to make it through this phase without any issues. So once you've finished off phase 2 and you're then moving into phase 3 as per the normal mode, you'll be facing both Swen and Lulin at the same time. Now this is probably going to be one of the more difficult phases for you to get through, but it's doable. It's fairly simple as long as you kind of nail the strategy. So just like in the normal mode, Lulin will gain her Tidal Force ability, and this is where she does the kind of bursts of water in a frontal cone in front of her, and we found it was just best to stand there and take the damage instead of moving, because if you move you could get hit by one, and then if you're unfortunate enough to move into the direction of a new one that's being cast, you're going to probably get killed, because it does do a lot of damage on heroic mode. And joyfully, Swen will also keep her Nuclear Inferno ability. So thankfully the Ice Comets do still spawn during this phase. You will just need to be a bit more aware of your positioning. But just like in phase 2, when Nuclear Inferno is cast, you want to be hiding behind an Ice Comet. And again, you can use the same rotation for the Ice Comets for dropping the Blazing Radiance stacks, and also for taking reduced damage from the Inferno itself. The rest of the phase is the same as phase 1 and phase 2 when it comes to dodging general boss abilities and making sure you are spread out at all times. We found that during this phase it was best in order to kill off Swen, because then you face Lulin in phase 4 on her own. If you kill off Lulin, then you're going to have to deal with Swen's abilities such as Nuclear Inferno and also the Blazing Radiance, and it's just going to be too much for you to heal through in the long run. So overall, Lulin will deal a hell of a lot less damage. So phase 3, make sure you're killing Swen. This phase is also when you want to be looking to use your damage dealing cooldowns and your Bloodlust, your Time Warps, your Heroisms. Now, you should also bear in mind that during this fight you will still have the Celestial buffs to deal with, and we think it is mainly down to what works best for your raid as to when you actually do use them, but just as a very simple guideline, you want to make sure that you are using them in conjunction with what the boss is currently doing and the current situation that your raid's in. So for example, if you are low on health and mana or taking a lot of damage and your healers are running out of mana, then you'll want to use Yulon the Serpent's Vitality, because that will regenerate your health and your mana every second. That's a useful thing to have. If for example you want more damage output on the boss, then use Chi-Ji, which is the Rush of Cranes, and that will deal a lot of damage to the enemies that the cranes do run through. So you might want to use this during the third phase as an example, when both of them are up, so that they're both able to take damage, which should make the fight a bit shorter. You might also want to consider using the, I can never pronounce this, Nuozaz, or however it is, the Fortitude of the Ox, which will grant you with additional maximum health for 30 seconds. You could consider using that if, for example, you kill if you kill Lulin in the third phase and face Swen in the fourth phase, and you need the extra health to keep you alive, you could use it then. Or you could use it in the third phase for when you're facing both of the bosses at the same time. And finally with Zuen, X-U-E-N, can't pronounce that either, I'm brilliant at this, the Tiger's Celerity. This is the one where it will slow down time effectively and allow you to dodge abilities fairly simple. You can again use this during phase 3 when you want to dodge the tidal forces, or you could also use it in the first phase if you want to dodge the cosmic barrages from Lulin. So it's just a matter of figuring out when you want to use them, what abilities you want to negate the most, and just working around your raid as opposed to around the encounter. So that's it. That's the Twin Consorts. It's a simple fight. It's an enjoyable fight. I think we really enjoyed it, is the general consensus. So as always, thank you for watching, and if you are interested in future Mr. Pandaria raiding guides, then please do feel free to subscribe to the channel.